This video is brought to you by Mubi. This is the most important shot in Park Chan-wook's decision to leave. To understand why that is, let me start from the top. Park Chan-wook, if you don't know the name, why are you still here? Go watch one of his movies. If you do know the name, you probably associate it with, I don't know, sex, violence, twists, and some of the most insane editing ever put to film. The work of Park Chan-wook, which includes Oldboy, The Handmaiden, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, and Stoker, just to name a few, aims to use sex and violence not as a means of disturbing an audience, but to better explore the human condition through stories of revenge and repression. This is why I found his new film Decision to Leave just incredibly fascinating, as it feels not nearly as violent or as blatantly erotic as his past work, but ultimately the most moving and romantic film of his, to me. It's an incredibly dense movie that needs more than just one viewing to digest fully, but if there's one thing I want to dive into, it's the theme of mountains versus sea, because in my opinion, it's a thread that holds this film together and makes the viewer look at romance in a uniquely devastating way. Just a heads up, I do end up spoiling this movie, so if you haven't already seen it, you should just go watch it and then come back to this video. Decision to Leave tells the story of a skilled police detective named Hae-jun who is hired to investigate the death of a mountain climber, and in the process begins to catch feelings for his wife, the main suspect, Song-seo-rae. Park Chan-wook has been known to deconstruct and redefine what love is through his films, and this is no exception. If we're going to start anywhere, we should start with the Confucius quote the film directly references: "Wise people like water, benevolent people like mountains." In the first interrogation scene, it's established where the murder suspect Song-seo-rae fits best.
공자님 말씀에 지혜로운 자는 물을 좋아하고 인자한 자는 산을 좋아한다고 했습니다. 난 인자한 사람이 아닙니다. 난 바다가 좋아요.
Song-seo-rae's attachment to the sea is made clear throughout the film, from more obvious examples of her literal wallpaper being ocean waves to her distaste for the opposite, claiming she hates mountains. There are also obvious ties at the film's end, which I'll get into later. It's also worth noting her history and her connection to the sea, being a part of a group of Chinese nationalists who planned to sneak into South Korea by cargo ship, but were caught when they reached the shore. She literally arrived here by sea. She's only here because of the sea. She also wears a green-blue dress in the back half of the film, a color that could be directly compared to that of the sea, but you could also make the connection that it's the same color as the fentanyl capsules that she carries with her in the film. There's also her method of falling asleep that she passes on to Hae-jun by envisioning himself as a jellyfish, and there's also a subplot near the end of the film where Hae-jun is assigned to find a bunch of stolen baby turtles, and one of the turtles ends up biting his finger and not letting go. You can easily compare the turtle to her as it's something from the sea. The point is, I think it's thoroughly established that if there are two personality traits, she's connected to the sea, and we'll get into what that means for the film in a second. Then there's Hae-jun, a rigid police detective in an unfulfilled marriage who has the more interesting character arc, aligning with mountains near the beginning and throughout the film leaning more towards the sea. Sure, Hae-jun claims near the beginning of the film in the same interrogation scene that he also likes the sea, which deep down maybe he does, but to everyone else you can see through his actions that he mostly aligns with the mountains. I mean, he's directly shut down in this scene where he calls himself a man of the sea only for his wife to remind him that he was born in Seoul.
바다, 이포와도 바다. 나는야 바다의 사나이.
바다 사나이 좋아하시네. 을지로가 고향인 주제에.
Speaking for his actions, the film is very intentional with its chase scenes, two of which involve Hae-jun at the beginning of the film climbing tall stairs and buildings, mimicking the same feeling as climbing a mountain. Hae-jun's comic relief sidekick struggles to make it at all far up the stairs, but Hae-jun does it in two separate scenes with ease. Park Chan-wook even uses similar camera tricks for the top of the building and the top of the mountain to show the extreme heights of both, subtly connecting the two of them. And in the film, it's clear that to Hae-jun, a mountain serves as the ending to a case, both of these instances leaving the suspect with nowhere to go, resulting in either death or handcuffs. I mean, this even applies to the main case, where when he reaches the top of the mountain, he confirms that Song-seo-rae did in fact kill her husband. But that's a special one because rather than ending, it just keeps going. Hae-jun's life revolves around this feeling of finality and more than just work. At home, very early in the film, it's clear whatever sex drive he and his wife had is clearly gone, where at this point they have to have sex once a week even if they hate each other. One of the earliest scenes in the film is a conversation between him and his wife where she's telling him that someone at work said 6 out of 10 weekend marriages end in divorce, and she responded 55% of sexless marriages end in divorce, which implies that to her, all that's needed to keep a marriage healthy and active is to continue having sex, even if you hate hate each other, even if you guys are not in love anymore. But the film also makes a rather endearing case for mountains representing finality, in a scene near the end of the film where Seo-rae takes the ashes of her grandparents to the peak of a mountain to toss them as a sweet way of saying goodbye. I also really love that scene because it serves as a point of trust between the two of them, Seo-rae making a case for their love not ending at the top of the mountain. So what does this all mean? What's the point? What is this saying? Well, mountains can be seen as demonstrating a sense of stability, both in this film and in life when referring to the original Confucius quote. You see it yourself the way Seo-rae's husband would talk about the mountain he would eventually die on. There's something to study and to conquer, to understand completely. To scale the mountain, you need to know the rock, the roots, the weak spots, the comfortable spots. The mountain will rarely change, the shape will always stay the same. And there's some comfort in that. Stability is nice in theory, but when you reach the top of the mountain, what's left to get excited about? What is there left to conquer? And what's so great about Decision to Leave is it takes this and applies it to marriage. The sea is the complete opposite. There is no stable shape to it. Understanding how to move about the sea is pointless and impossible because of its mystery and sense of endlessness. The seabed is constantly changing and the waves are always moving. The mountains reveal everything to you on the surface. With the sea, you know nothing of what's beneath. It's scary, it's unstable, and it's mysterious, but it's unpredictable and everlasting. That's why it aligns with wise people, and that's how Haejun finds himself connected to Seo-rae. Referring to the mountains and the sea through a romantic lens, you can see how mountains surround Haejun's life and how Seo-rae moves about her life through the philosophy of the sea. It's why there's a sense of urgent fear when the case begins to close on Seo-rae's husband's case, because it means an end to their relationship, means they don't have to talk anymore. But then, there's this scene.
수사를 망쳤죠. 나는요. 완전히 붕괴됐어요.
After Haejun inevitably finds the evidence that Seo-rae did kill her husband, he tells Seo-rae to throw the phone in the sea, somewhere deep where nobody can find it, which to me is one of the most romantic and heartbreaking scenes ever, because it feels both shattering in the ways she betrayed him and in the guilt he's forced to live with moving forward, but at the same time, him telling her he knows she did it and giving her the out and opportunity to move on with her life, throwing the phone into the sea so that nobody can find it and so that this investigation can never truthfully reach the end, that's him telling her he loves her, which is confirmed later on in the film. The sea in this case represents this sense of eternal love and longing, because it means keeping this investigation open and living out this fantasy he and she both have of him trailing her and watching her every move, giving her this sort of attention. To put it bluntly, it's just hot. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned this shot is the most important in the film, and when looking at it in this context, it should make sense why. Something I've been fascinated by since my first viewing was why Park Chan-wook chose her death to happen in the sand and not the sea. Logistically speaking, she picks up on the fact that the police found the phone thrown into the sea, so burying herself in the sand this way makes it even harder for them to find her, I assume. But more importantly, her burying herself in the sand gives us this shot. It gives you a beautiful visual of her creating her own mountain by digging a hole to die in, just for us to get the image of a mountain being destroyed by the sea, proving that maybe not all mountains are all that stable. It also gives you the image of Haejun frantically running around the beach, briefly on top of her, desperately trying to find her, one of the most heartbreaking shots in the whole movie. Like any great film, Decision to Leave doesn't seem to argue for or pick a certain side here. As strong and as passionate as this sea approach seems to be, it's clear there's a sense of toxicity to their relationship. Talk about an understatement. Like, the two of them only seem to function when there's a sense of longing or chasing, and that's just what it is. If you're gonna go about it in this unpredictable sea-like approach, that's how it works.
你说爱我的瞬间，你的爱就结束了。你的爱结束的瞬间，我的爱就开始了。
If they were ever to fully end up together and have a sense of stability, the appeal of their love would quickly dissolve, which makes this ending so complicated and beautiful. They also both know this. On one hand, she's just said, "I love you" in the most dramatic way possible, burying herself, leaving their love open-ended, giving him the tools to make a case for the murders, and saving his career. But on the other hand, they can never truly be together again, and he's forced to live with her absence the rest of his life. It implies that this everlasting love based on the sea is impossible without someone leaving the other, which is beautiful and it's also heartbreaking. The film's brutally honest yet thorough examination of love and marriage makes it a difficult film to wrap your head around, but one of the most effective of the year. It does end on a devastating note where it feels like the longing will never end, which is what makes their love so special. And this is just one piece of a large and very filling pie that is this film. You could also talk about how it deconstructs police procedurals, how it critiques the police, how it talks about modern life. And Park Chan-wook only is able to get here through some of the wittiest direction and editing that makes this endlessly rewatchable and rewarding with its cinematic details. Simply put, it's one of the best movies of the year. So thanks for watching. Decision to Leave is now streaming exclusively on Mubi in the US, Canada, UK, Ireland, India, and Turkey, and you can watch it with 30 days free at mubi.com/Karsten. So go watch it and form your own opinion, and I'll see you all in the next one.